Okay. Welcome to the Heart of the Artist. This is our first show. So excited. I am your co-host, Whisper Poet, and my co-host, Catalyst, who is also the genius behind our amazing graphic. This is an interview show by women, for women, about our poetry, the history, her story, and the heart of your work, of what makes you move, what makes you groove, how you got to be who you are today, what's your origin story. We want to know all of the things. And we have an amazing poet with us today, Debby Segal. She is so lovely and so gracious to be our first guinea pig. So happy to have you with us today, Debby. Before we get started with our amazing interview, I have a couple of housekeeping things. So one of the things I want to do every week is to share open mic opportunities, because obviously we want our women to get our work out there and in front of the world. And open mics are a great way to do that, both in person and online. The open mic link I'm going to share with you today is called Who Naked Up in Here? And it's a Wednesday night at 9 p.m. It's a Zoom call hosted by Mr. Witz and Gifted. Such a fantastic space. They are both incredible people, incredible poets, absolutely a fantastic space. If you have not put yourself into that space, you definitely need to do it. Mr. Witz can be found on Instagram under Witz Witty, WitzDawittie, Witz. So who naked up in here? And obviously adult content is allowed, as you can tell from the title, but it is a fantastic open mic. Highly recommend. The other thing I want to do every week is share poetry contest opportunities, because, you know, obviously it's not a bad thing to make $1 here and there on our poetry if we can. So I found one for you. This is a $500 prize. This is the Geminga 24, Geminga. And I will, let's see. I'll have to figure out how to put the link because I'm looking at it on my phone. Maybe Catalyst, can you find it? Are you able to find it? It's a Sunspot Lit. Sunspot Lit, SUNSBOTLIT, the Geminga. So that is a $500 prize. And comes Hayes. That's a $500 prize. There is a $12.50 submission fee, and the cutoff for it is January 31st. But that's for tiny fiction, nonfiction, poetry, graphic novel, or art. So please get your work out there, and just remember, you cannot manifest it if you do not request it. So put it out there into the universe, make it happen. And then each week I want to do a featured poem, and we have the good luck to have the author of this week's poem with us in the room, Ma Dukes. Deanne Hill, also known as Ma Dukes. She has this beautiful book. It's called Epiphanies of the Soul. And let's see if I can get close enough there. It's absolutely gorgeous cover art. And I am going to read a poem from here. I love Deanne's work. She's absolutely amazing. She talks about a lot of different themes. Social justice, personal exploration, Native American issues, politics, life, children. She has one really funny as hell poem that she wrote entirely of music song titles. I have so many favorite Ma Dukes poems, I can't even name them all. But absolutely fantastic poet. The tagline in this book says, "The expectations you held were not mine to carry, yet they weighed me down." And just the gravity of that statement alone is amazing. But I'm going to read the first poem in the book. It's called Life Lessons from Empty Closets 2.0. As you store your clothes inside my walls, remember, you have no place here with them. Only the shoes you wear on your feet can muddy your home. That is to say, don't ever dirty who you are and dull your rainbow shine. Don't wear a fake smile of friendship like a bad suit. That is to say, be genuine with your smile and yourself. Never lock yourself behind my doors again. Locks of lies can only be opened with keys of truth. Store only sweaters and old photo albums on my shelves. That is to say, there is no room for your shame with those keepsakes. Teach those willing to learn how to build open closets. That is to say, teach them love is never wrong. Be sacred in your dealings with children so they feel safe to share unsure hearts with you. Rip off my doors and throw bare my confines. That is to say, never hide behind closeted expectations. Keeping me free of skeletons is best. That is to say, never give any soul a reason to distrust your heart. Remember, your house is more than bricks and boards. It is a reflection of you. Keep your windows clean and clear for transparency. That is to say, be transparent in who you are. And lastly, the only things that should hang from these racks are clothes. That is to say, you are not alone. Go outside of these closet walls and live your best life. Oh. Ma Dukes, would you like to unmute yourself and share your information, who you are? It's such a beautiful, beautiful poem. I love it. Thank you for letting me read it. Guys, meet Ma Dukes.
Hi guys. You can find me at Ma Dukes the Poet on Facebook, Ma Dukes on Instagram. My website is under construction at the moment and will be back up soon, but that's also madukesthepoet.com. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to hearing the feature today.
Thank you so much, Ma Dukes. And Ma Dukes will actually be our interview guest next week. So you've just had an amazing preview of her work, and I hope all of you will be back next week to see that interview. Without further ado, let me introduce today's guest. I'm so excited to interview this woman, Debby Segal, Deborah C. Segal. Fantastic lady. I had the opportunity of spending some time with you the other night, and hadn't really known you. Like, you know, Thomas has raved about you, Gustav has raved about you, but had never really had the opportunity to be around you. And you are such a fantastic chick. And what I really love about you is that, and I'm not going to say how I know this, you can choose to share it if you like. It has to do with weddings, but you know exactly who you are. And I absolutely love that about you. You have a very practical vibe about you that is also empathetic. A lot of times practical people are kind of cold, and you're not. You have that practicality coming out of you, that cerebral vibe about you, but you're also very approachable and very warm, and you're funny. So I'm so glad to have you here. And if I may, I want to start off with something from your blog, which is Another Seagull, if I have it right. Oops, where's my link? Go back. There it is. Well, why is my, there it goes. This is from another seagull.wordpress. So this is your blog, right? Yeah. Okay. I told you I web stalked you. This is called The Dance of Poets, and this was published on her blog March 30th of this last year. In the smoky boneyard, true believers spar with daydreams, hale elders making merry in a garden, while distinguished poets throw the I Ching. Backstage, fingers snapping for exquisite corpses by extinguished poets. Go on. That is absolutely gorgeous, Debbie. Wow. Will you please share? Talk to me about that poem. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, I'm really kind of floored that you found my little WordPress thing that I've only added stuff to about once a year because sometimes I forget I have it. And I go, oh, I have that thing. Do I still remember how to even log into it? That's it. Oh gosh. Well, I don't know where to begin. That's something I did several years back. I'm really happy that you like it. I feel like my poetry has improved since then. But I'm going to have to look at that again. I've actually updated that poem and changed it around a little, but now I'm thinking maybe that draft was a good one. So it lives on my Another Seagull like .wordpress. Where do I begin? It's for poets that are no longer with us and poets that are with us. And I just pictured an open mic in the real world, because this was pre-pandemic, and what would that be like if the poets that were no longer with us were kind of still with us backstage and that sort of thing. I don't know. I've never really been asked to talk about my poetry before. This is like so interesting.
There is
So I
such a
don't remember.
beautiful lyric
I don't
quality
remember
to
the
those words.
process or anything with that. Like I just don't remember what I did to come up with that.
Well, there's such a beautiful lyric quality to those words. I mean, just the imagery of it, like the smoky boneyard, true believers spar with daydreams. I mean, wow, that language is it's just gorgeous and stunning. And of course, in stalking you, you're a playwright, you're an author, you've done a live. Tell me about the live thing that you did on what was it, Ghost Radio or Pirate Radio or
Oh,
Motown?
here's the thing that I got kind of freaked out because when y'all posted that link to my book, I went on there and I went, where's my other books? Like, what happened? Did my publisher take the play and put it out of print or something? But I think that when it says Amazon.sg, I think it's Singapore. So the play might not have been in print in Singapore. I'm going to find out. I'm going to put that link in at the end because my play is actually the thing that gave me the most traction, the most, like, it put me in there. Is this backwards or can you read that?
Nope, that's perfect.
Okay, so this was like what happened to me is I was a library worker. I was cataloging books. A book came along that was called like Guidebook to Beat Events that happen in San Francisco or something. And I'm just slacking off reading the book instead of working. And I was like, oh, what? And I found an event that had occurred on Franklin Street that no one had ever talked about. Nothing had ever been put in any of the beat literature and lore. And it was the story of this young woman, Natalie Jackson, who had been a girlfriend of Neil Cassidy. Like he was married to Carolyn Cassidy, but he was living with Natalie for a year or so on Franklin Street. And this information that pertained to her, they say she took her own life. And that's why that address was on the Beat guide tour of Beat things. And so I felt like, did she, or did something else happen? So she fell off a building. And I honestly feel like Natalie Jackson pushed herself into me, and it pushed me to look further, because as you know, there are entire libraries written about beat information. I don't know if you know, but like when you get into it, there's entire, like, you could have a room full of every beat book. It's kind of like JFK conspiracy. It's just like you could have a room full of every beat book. Jack Kerouac wrote a lot about his friends. He was writing about himself, about his friends. I guess he was the first one to do auto fiction, like autobiographical fiction, because he would just change their damn names, but it was about all the people and things he did. And so I was really mad at Jack Kerouac for not writing an entire book about what happened that night, because he was there that night. It was related to this fraud that Neil had talked Natalie into doing. He had talked her into doing a forged signature of his wife They were taking out a whole bunch of money to cover a racetrack bet that he had made that hadn't worked out. And so he talked her into signing Carolyn's name. And then when they realized they were about to get caught, Natalie started to freak out. And Neil Cassidy, who was a working class guy, he was a brakeman for the railroads. He was like, I'm going to work. Jack, you deal with her. You deal with her. She was freaking out. She had freaked out prior, like she did have a kind of a history of hysteria, you know, whatever you want to call it. She was a complex woman who in her own right was also a writer, and also like she was trying to do the same things Jack was doing, like the stream of consciousness writing, which I'll get to that in a minute, why I know this. So she was like in her 20s, a single mom who had left her child behind to come to San Francisco. And here she was, a model, an artist model for Robert Levine, who was a very important, famous like painter in those days. He was part of that crew of people that was Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, all these different people that you probably hear about. Of course, Natalie is not a household word, but it was I became like her channel to make her as much of a household word as I could. So being left with Jack Kerouac, who his whole thing is supposed to be like compassion and Buddhism, and let's all like be, you know, mindful, and he just totally wasn't. So he allowed her to have a freak out that he didn't like help in any way, kind of like made it worse. I know this because I found footnotes to her. Like she literally, her legend is just nothing but footnotes. Like, and I didn't believe all the footnotes because some people made the assumption that she wanted to jump off that building. But what the research I did showed, as she was freaking out, as she was running across rooftops, as the cops were called, there was an actual cop with an Irish name. Like, I don't even remember how I found all this stuff out, but he had like his Irish San Francisco cop. We do know that he like yanked her, like as she was trying to go off the building, he pulled on her bathrobe. And I believe that that sort of thing doesn't help a person who's feeling, you know, suicidal. Like I think she jerked away from him. And that's my theory is why she took her fall to her death, is that they just weren't handling her right. And so
Most definitely.
that's
When
the
you
whole,
get yanked,
yeah,
your
when you get
instinct
yanked,
is to jump.
yeah, so of course it's a piece of fiction. I wasn't there, but it is based on all the details I could find. She has gone down in beat history as the beat suicide, the Bohemian suicide. And I just found that to be absurd. And so I wrote the play. It took me a really long time. And what I also didn't realize was I was in a very oppressive marriage situation at the time, not with my amazing Bruce. Like this was the Dutch guy. I call him the Dutch guy. And what I didn't realize is that my oppression on me and my feeling like wanting to like end my life. And I was like, ugh. I was channeling that. I was mixing it in. So it was like it really was art. It was me taking a situation that deserved to be looked at and deserved to be written about. And I didn't realize it was also me pouring my own, like, I want to be listened to or some stuff mixed in with that. So I didn't even realize that. So let's see, the book came out. I wrote the play. I had the manuscript of the play. And then my really good friend, one of my very best friends, Mel C. Thompson, who was a very prominent poet until he just decided he had enough of it. Like, can you imagine? Like, he was just so like, before I even met him, every time I was walking around, I'd see posters. Oh, who's this Mel C. Thompson guy that's going to be featuring blah, blah, blah. And so like later I met him. The way I met him was when I was working on the play. And this is how I do anything or get anywhere or get my name out there or my work out there, is I was going to each and every place, person, and thing that had anything to do with the beats at all. And I was like, here's my script. We want to read it? Like, what do you want to tell me, like, what you think or whatever? So there was a poet named Neely Tchaikovsky who's still around. He's a San Francisco kind of OG. None of us that are still around are really old enough to have been part of the beats. You know, we kind of lost like the last of them, but I thought of Neely as being kind of part of the Beats because he had, let's see, he had been friends with Alan, and he had written a Bukowski autobiography or biography. So I heard he was featuring at this place, and I went there, and there was Mel. First time I ever laid eyes on him, and he never laid eyes on me. And I was like this cigarette smoking, size 0, 100-pound, like complete lunatic writer. Like, oh, I never read this. And they were light on readers that night. So the host asked me to, who was that host? I'll have to remember. The host asked me to read a scene out of the play, and I did. And then that night, so that was just amazing. And the very next night, there was another poetry reading in which Mel was going to be at, and that was here in Berkeley. So I went to that. So I saw Mel for like 2 nights in a row. And that was also a very Beat thing. Everybody was kind of talking about Gregory Corso. For some reason, they were all writing and reading poems to do with Gregory. Like everyone had either known him, slept with his wife, done this, done that, whatever. And so there I was. And so honestly, like Mel and I fell in love at first sight that day. Those days we were like, oh my God. And we're both like too crazy to like have a relationship. Like somebody has to be sane in the relationship or something. But so we got together. We had a lovely year or so of hanging out together, and then like it didn't work out. So we parted our separate ways, but we're like best friends now, and he's like best friends with my boyfriend Bruce, so he's just part of the family. But so then all that this was going on, like in the meantime, I'm telling other people about the script. I'm going to this writing group, and I'm presenting it for like critiques, and I'm having all my actor friends play roles for just the table readings and stuff. And so one friend of mine who I've known since childhood, who was also in the acting world, really in the theater world here, said, I think I'm gonna suggest my theater group put this on. Like, it's not because we're friends, it's because it's good. I'm like, wow. So we had a table reading with equity actors, and they were going to put it on. They had a budget ran for it. It was like let's actually do this play. It's very short though. And so they loved it. They decided to do a staged reading. So I had a staged reading. This is not even the radio play. This is just, nothing was recorded. Only those that were there got to experience it. And it was a standing room only in San Francisco, the Phoenix Theater, like a real theater, in the theater division, what do you call it, neighborhood. And so they did it. There was a talk back at the end, like, and here's what a friend of mine, like so many people showed up out of the woodwork because I told everybody. I literally postered the entire town, the entire Bay Area, and friends of mine from childhood showed up and all kinds of stuff. And this one kid that knew me back when we were hanging out at a park, we were part of a gang, was like, I have a question, like, so Debbie, like, this is about you, isn't it? Or something. And I had already, this is a play about an actual person. This is about you, isn't it? And I'm like, well, no, it's an actual person. But years and years later, I thought that was really astute of Brian to say that, because like, it kind of what, it was like both of us merging together. And so,
So I just gotta break in so many things. So many things.
I know.
So one of the things that strikes me is that you really kind of have the heart of an investigator. Like you grabbed hold of this thing and dug your teeth into it, and just like a terrier, man, you were not letting that go. You were running that down. And I think that's really fascinating because you said your background was library science, as you say?
Well, actually, no, my background is creative writing. I did get my creative writing like undergraduate degree from San Francisco State. And I got a job. I left into a job fell into my lap, which was like being the librarian's assistant. So I never got the MLS, but we all decided we were librarians anyway, even if we didn't have the MLS.
So the other thing too is that you're a very humble person. You were not one that self-aggrandizes at all. And yet, you were talking about papering the town with these posters, right? You're very driven, and it's like that kind of juxtaposition. You were doing it not because you're like, hey, look at me, but because of this sense of drive that you have. And I think that's one of the things that I've sensed about your personality that I admire very much. And the other thing that struck me is how your original experience of poetry compares to now, because of course now we have these fantastic electronic forums, but at the time you're referring to, everything was live and in person. And I was curious how your experience of meeting new poets and connecting with new poets now differs from what it was like at that time.
Oh, I feel like we're a closer knit community now, even though we're so far flung. Like, I mean, that's to go back to talking about Mel and how he was a really prominent poet at the time, and he refuses to do Zoom things. Like, he loved the idea of strutting up to the mic, and it's like, it's about me now, and there's not all these little squares, but there's like something to be said for it, because we're all like looking at each other, we're little squares and stuff, and it's not this rock star getting up to the thing, you know. It's so like I never would have been able to probably become like, I feel closer and closer to the people I'm meeting in these little squares. Whereas if I just show up, and there's still some real world stuff that I just went to some, I literally have an art house across the street, and I went to a thing that some of the prominent poets locally, globally, I don't know, were doing. And I was sitting there like, I didn't feel a closeness to them. Like I was listening to the people that were performing, and I was like, but then, you know, there wasn't this, you know, they were the performers and I was, you know, supporting them. But yeah, this just like merges all the lines between the stage and the audience, which I kind of think it's kind of neat. But like people that used to do performance kind of don't think it's neat. You know what I mean? It's they're like, ah.
Well, could we prey on your good nature to share a poem with us?
Well, I almost feel like sharing a part of Natalie's story, and then I literally have to go and find out, like, why is my book not on the thing anymore? And it's probably because it's Singapore, but
Absolutely.
God, but let's see. If it is out of print, then you'll be like, oh, we were one of the few people that ever got to hear it. Okay, it's a play, so I have to do like stage directions, and should I do this saying the person's name beforehand or just try to change name? I'll say the person's name. Anyway,
Do what feels right.
I hadn't really set anything up that I was gonna do. Okay, how many minutes would you like me to do this?
We've got 15 minutes left in the show. Why don't you take up to 10, and then the last 5 minutes I want you to talk about any kind of charities you're working with or social work you know are invested in, or just anything like that. So yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna find this part that I love. Okay, shucks. Where is it? Okay. I just love this scene. It's a dream scene. I think this is my favorite scene. So it doesn't even have Natalie talking, but she's dreaming, or she's no, she's part of the dream. Moments later, Neil is dreaming. The sound of a gong. Enter a 6-foot tall, dirty, gritty, raggedy sunflower. The set is of a dreamlike sunset view of San Francisco from Berkeley at Aquatic Park. Train whistles are blowing and there are tracks upstage. Jack enters from upstage moments after the sunflower, and he looks in wonder at the view, not noticing the sunflower, then looks at his port wine and takes a big swig. Allen Ginsberg enters the dream through the front door. With a brief knock and clearing of his throat, Neil is watching and listening, unable to move or speak in his dream. Allen. Let's track the banks of the bay and sit down by a train, Jack. What do you say? Allen sits down on a log, beginning to weep softly. Allen. What does it take to look at the sunset? My wonderful eyes. Jack, come and be on a log with me. Do you have the same blues as me? Do you and I see the machinery? Jack. Cast an eyeball on this goopy flower. Allen. Oh, goopy sunflower. Did you forget you were a flower? Did you look at your gritty skin and decide you were a ghost? Jack leaps to his feet and gesticulates to Alan in the next dialogue, pointing to what he speaks about. Jack, why, we're all beautiful golden sunflowers. We're all beatific stars. I make a supplication because the Buddha said that all of life is perturbed by suffering. That may well be so. And this life is filled with many wonders. Look at the sunset over the San Francisco Bay from Berkeley. Hey, yeah. Hey, my own two eyes, my wonderful eyes are each wonders. Buddha reminds me that also may well be so. Jack sits down cross-legged at the knee of Alan. Jack, some people despise their minds and bodies so much that they want to leave this life. Alan, they see only the suffering. Jack, suffering, it seems, as the Buddha teaches it, is not the only true nature of the universe. Alan, suffering might be the result of a big fake out, a sort of seriously erroneous understanding of the true nature of reality. Alan writes something on a huge papyrus scroll in a dream language with a quill pen, rolls it up, tucks it under his arm, muttering ad-libs under his breath, and wanders away and out the front door. Jack stands, then turns abruptly to face the sunflower, looking it up and down from all angles and smirking at the face of the sunflower. Jack, a face plant. Neil would like this. Sunflower, get with it, Jack. A monk devotes his mind to receive liberation. You do a lot of pointing out the suffering, and I wonder with my two eyes if you can sleep beneath only the trees and clouds, eat only what the stars and planets provide for you. Jack turns quickly and falls down on his hands and knees before the sunflower, lightning and thunder. Sunflower, I am the mother of all, Jack Kerouac, and this to you I say. You may moan, you may groan, you may swoon at the moon. Soon you will know, nothing here to see. All that book writing on visions of Neil, all that road going in the rear view. In the headlights, desperate longings for what has to be. Gone, gone, gone. Jack. Oh, holy face plant, oh, mother of all, if there is one, this I accept and only this. We're all gonna die. All the writing and talking and kissing and yelling, nobody knows what's gonna happen to anybody. A gong sounds and the sunflower exits the stage in darkness.
Debbie.
So the sunflower was going to be played by the same actor as Natalie, if that wasn't already obvious.
Okay, so first of all, writing a play, like, wow.
Whisper,
But-
poet, you're whispering. I can't hear you. What
Oh,
happened to your volume?
I don't know. Is this better? I don't think I did
Fine.
anything.
She's at the same volume. Maybe
Hold
your
on.
speaker changed.
It was my problem. Say things.
Is this better?
Things.
No.
No.
Say more things.
Speaking.
There we go. It was something on my end. My end
Oh,
turned
okay.
off.
Okay. So here's what strikes me listening to that. First of all, it was amazing and funny. But I would think when you write a play, right, you're writing about fictional characters. So you can create their tone of voice and point of view and words however you wish, but you chose to write about people who are incredibly well known. So if you represented them inaccurately by other people's perceptions, you're going to get burned on that. So kudos for courageous as hell, And second of all, like even more kudos for getting it right. I mean, I totally picture Allen Ginsberg being this kind of like la 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 head in the clouds dude kind of wandering off. And then, Kerouac, you kind of represent him as a little bit of a jerk.
Oh, he was a jerk. And here's the thing is I was really worried about that too. And then all of a sudden I was being told, you're a feminist. Like, I know that the interview is going to end soon, but like when I finally got more traction out of it years later with the radio podcast, and the producer was interviewing me like, so when did you become a feminist or something? And I'm like, am I one? I don't know. So what had happened to be is that people jumped right on my coattails and enjoyed being able to see, the beat misogyny. Like they were like, yeah, no, it's true. That's the hidden underbelly of these people that we lionized and everything. And so
I think that's amazing that you did that, and you did that by way of a character that was known but not super known. Like you found sort of untrod earth with which to drive that message. I think it's absolutely amazing. I want to ask you, so is it hard to switch gears between like writing the play? You've got to flesh out everything, right? You've got to explain everything, but with poetry, you do it with limited language. So is it hard to switch gears between those two spaces?
I guess it kind of probably was, but I'm a human being living like a life in which a lot of my decisions were pretty impulsive and pretty like detrimental or something. So it's not like I'm just this little bubble person like, I'll be a playwright now. Ooh, I'll be a poet now. Like all this crazy crap was going on in my life, like I just relationships and life and stuff. And so I think it's hard to say whether it was, oh, I'm shifting gears from a different genre, but oh my God, writing a play is difficult. Writing dialogue is just, Lordy, Lordy. But so my next thing I'm gonna release is it is based on experiences I had, although it's in the book, this is a work of fiction. Anything that resembles anybody is like completely a coincidence. But hilariously, that's what the Beats also had in their fiction books. Like you find even before Jack Kerouac, there was a guy named John Cleland Holmes, or otherwise known as Cleland Holmes, has this is a work of fiction. Anything that resembles anybody is a complete coincidence. And you're like, no, he really is writing about his friends, and we all know that. So mine is a work of fiction, and anything that resembles anybody is a work of complete coincidence. But yeah, you'll see I had some kind of crazy adventures here in Berkeley in 2012, and befriended some traveling street kids and some juggalos, and tripped on a bunch of different stuff, And so I took that, and it had to be 10 years out, and I finally was able to, because it was like kind of a painful relationship and a painful experience that happened. But after 10 years out, I was able to sit down and write the novel. This shirt I'm wearing, which is the NaNoWriMo like thing, I actually signed up for that, not this year, but the year before, and it gave you like this deadline, or this thing of try and write like 1,700 words a day for the month of November. And then these people end up with these huge, like Proustian, like every single detail. And I wasn't able to do 50,000 words. I did like 25,000 words, and then I cut it down to 10,000 words. So it's really tight, but I was like, I'm doing it. I'm writing a novel. And then, well, 10,000 words, that's kind of a novella. I'm doing it. I did it. And it's got a really wonderful ending. Like when you write a novel, that's the hardest part, to tie everything together really quick and make it really satisfying. And my favorite thing about it is I know there's just so much heavy shit in the world, and really, really deep, dark, sad, very concerning shit in the world. But my little book is just an escape from that. Everybody in it, every character in it, gets what they were seeking, gets what they need, even if they didn't know what they were seeking or what they needed. Like the universe of that reality provides them with everything. So it's just, you end up feeling like, oh, And then you'll be like, I'm so sad that book ended. So maybe I'll write a series.
That would be
It's
wonderful. And I'm
ridiculous.
so glad that you decided to share your play with us, because obviously I've gotten to experience your poetry, and now I've gotten to experience some of your play. I think that's lovely. And so we've got just a few minutes left, but is there any like charity that you support, or any kind of anything you want to share? Where can people follow you? I think, Catalyst, you put the link in the chat for buying her books, right? So
Oh,
Yeah, I
that's
got
the
the
American one?
American link now.
Did you see what? Okay, I'm gonna just see whether that's complete. I'm gonna just see.
Your name is also first on the American
I know.
one, so I don't know what Singapore's doing.
Oh, I see. If you click to my name, yeah, you will see all three things. Like if you go to that link and click to my name, for some reason, Borderlands and Lines is most popular. Yay, that's great. Most expensive and most popular. What the hell? I charged $19.95 for that one. My others I gave away practically for $6.95. There's the poetry book, which is that's the second thing that Mel published of mine, which, oops, I'm gonna put myself back in here. Hello. It's he was like, so you wrote this play, that was great, let's publish it. That he was a big supporter of mine, big friend. And then he's like, so I hear you're a poet, like where the fuck are your poems? You don't write poetry. I'm like, well, I haven't for a while. So I dug up my juvenilia, which is I guess the fancy word for poetry I wrote as a teen. And so then he goes, these are good. So I was typing them up and sending them to him. So 1975 is something I'm also kind of embarrassed about, but kind of proud of, the juvenilia. And so that's the 1975 book. He thought of that brilliant title. And my daughter did the artwork on that cover, my brilliant daughter. I told her, like, try and draw like a really dour, really kind of jaded teen girl from the 70s. And like, she totally did. And so that is also apparently still in print. Yay. And Natalie's story is apparently still in print, and also very cheap, $6.95. But if you go to my, like, the Facebook Deborah C. Segal page thingy, there's a link to the radio podcast, which is amazing. Like, we had a different set of actors, and a friend of mine wrote a preamble to the play. Like, my play, it starts with Natalie on the roof, and this friend of mine, Dietrich, wrote a prior act. And so he's like, he wrote something that happened at the racetrack. So it's like a full night of entertainment. So you'll find that on my whatever you call it thing, my Facebook, whatever you call it, Deborah C. Segal thing. And then you could just like listen to it for free. It's there on my SoundCloud. Oh, I guess you could find it on my SoundCloud. I don't have any of these links handy. Oh, there. Okay, wait.
Everybody, check the chat. Catalyst is so amazing. She's got everything loaded into the chat.
Wait, hon. No, hang on. I think Silver Muse is my like personal one. The Deborah C. Segal one is like, oh, I don't know. I'm not prepared. Like, I think if you just go to Deborah C. Segal SoundCloud, that's all that's on there is the radio play thing. And so it's so good. It's so good. Bruce helped me. My boyfriend is a sound guy, and we got rid of the stage directions, and instead we went to the library and got the BBC sound effects. So it's knock, 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 footsteps, like sirens. And I got to do some Foley work, which is the fancy word for when you do things and they are sound effects. Like, I got to chop a carrot, chop, chop, chop.
Oh, nice.
Because when you chop a carrot, it sounds more like an onion. Like, it was a chopping onion scene, and we tried chopping onions, but that didn't really sound like an onion. So when you chop a carrot, it sounds like chopping. So I really recommend everybody go to that and just spend an hour just immersing yourself. You will literally come away feeling like you have been transported back to the 50s San Francisco beat scenes.
Well, we are out of time, but Debbie, you are amazing. Thank you so much for being our inaugural guest. I was already thought you were the coolest chick, and you've just confirmed everything. So like, thank you so much. You're so warm and generous and have the best stories. I hope we can have another Zoom room night.
Oh,
to hear
thank you
some
so
more of
much,
them.
everyone. Like, this has been like very memorable. Really, it doesn't get much better than this. Just getting to hold forth about my masterpiece, my masterpiece. Thank you
Yes,
so
thank
much.
you so
And I
much.
think Natalie is with us in the room too. And just I feel her. I get goosebumps when she's nearby, and I'm getting goosebumps now.
I love it. Well, you definitely did her justice. And so before we close out, I just want to take a moment to talk about Open Minds, Open Mic, Friday nights at 8 p.m. in this, no, sorry, 7 p.m. In this room. So much fun. It's totally wonderful. And pretty much everybody in here has been participating in that. I don't know if you've had a chance to come. Ma Dukes, I don't know if you've had a chance to come, but such good folks. And then Monday nights at 8 o'clock, Chaos Magic, hosted by the Magus. Great stuff. And then, of course, now we have this little action going. And then I think there are brainstorms happening because Thomas and I were cooking up some crazy ideas a little while
Yeah, we
before
want
the
to take
show
over the
started.
whole
So
week.
the sky's the
Green eggs
limit.
and slam.
I love it. He spit it. He spit it out. I love it. So that remains to be seen if that will actually will be birthed by the Open Minds Open Mic crew. But from all of us, Catalyst, amazing, so beautiful. The graphic you made, just gorgeous. And Thomas, you're the best. Magus. So from all of us to each of you, much love. All right. We love you guys. All the best.
Love you.
Love you.